Hi everyone, it's Cozy. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. In today's video, I'm going to be building in the world of Granite Falls, which is the world that came with the first ever game pack for The Sims 4 called Outdoor Retreat, all the way back in 2015, and I'm going to be building a kids camp. So just to start off here, because this lot was quite big, I just decided that I needed to start mapping out where all the different buildings and things were going to be put. So these smaller rectangles here are going to be the cabins, so this is where all the beds and all the different amenities and things would be, all the different toys, and just to, somewhere for the kids to sleep overnight if they wanted to. There's going to be two bigger buildings, one which is going to be an activity centre, which is in the top right, and then on the front left there's going to be sort of like the canteen and the reception area where you'd sign your kids in, and then on the bottom right there's going to be a big swimming pool and a decking ready for like the outdoor movie theatre and stuff like that. Just to let you know, just when I say swimming pool, I literally mean a swimming pool, but I'm going to decorate it to make it look like it's a big forestry lake, because essentially when we got country living and they gave us ponds, I was so excited for ponds because I thought, oh my god, we're actually going to be able to get our Sims to be able to swim in like proper looking bodies of water, a bit like they can swim in like different areas of the world and stuff. But literally all your Sims can do is just paddle on the edges, which is a bit disappointing. So essentially what I've done is I've made a swimming pool. You've probably seen loads of people do this. I've made a swimming pool and I basically decorated it and used all the different pond filters and stuff to make it look like it was like a forestry lake. I'll get around to showing you that when we get to it. Now, I've named this camp the Llamakorn Kids Club, and essentially it's like a summer camp that your kids can go to if you're on vacation with their family in Granite Falls, and there's loads of different activities they can do here to keep them entertained. Like perhaps mum or dad or grandparents or whoever is on vacation with them would like to take a little bit of time to, go on a hike or explore the wilderness or just chill at the cabin. The kids can pop over to the kids club and just basically go wild. There are activities like swimming, arts and crafts, pumpkin making, scouts, outdoor movie theatres, bird watching, which is essentially just using the in-game telescopes, and loads of other bits and bobs around the camp. There are two sets of dorms in the camp which have 4 beds in each, and they are open to anyone, so you can have a maximum of 8 kids in here, or a mix and match of adult or even other age ranges if you want to. I'll speak more about the cabins when we get to decorating them. So I expect you're wondering why I named this camp the Llamakorn Camp, and it's basically because in The Sims 3, I believe, there was a little toy that kids could play with, which was basically a tiny purple llama, which was called a waffle cone, the Llamakorn. Now, I don't know if this is just like some kind of fever dream for me, or if this was genuine, or it could have even been custom content or something, but anyway, there was this little toy that Sims kids could play with, and it's always been stuck in my brain for some reason. So I was building this lot and I was thinking about the name for it, and I just thought this is the only thing that is going to stick in my brain right now. So it just sounded cute, and that's how I got to naming this camp. So the idea of the kids club camp came from two things really. Firstly, I was watching The Parent Trap on Disney Plus, which is one of my favourite live action Disney movies. I mean, I love Disney all around, so I have loads of favourite movies, but this one was playing while I was brainstorming for ideas for builds. And essentially, just to give you a quick nutshell explanation of The Parent Trap so you can have a bit of context. The Parent Trap is a film about 2 twin sisters whose parents basically get divorced, and each of the parents takes one twin with them, and these twin girls grow up without ever knowing who the other twin is and never knowing who the other parent is. The girls meet up at a kids' summer camp and are basically the polar opposites of each other. They start out as enemies and beating each other at all the different activities and stuff, but basically they become best friends, and after finding out they are twins, which is pretty obvious really because they look exactly the same, but the plot, they decide to switch places and go home with the other parent that they'd never seen before. Essentially they also hatch a plan to get their parents back together. Anyway, it's a really sweet film, and if you haven't seen it, I'd 100% recommend it. Anyway, I landed on Granite Falls, and I thought that because this pack is quite old now, you start to realise that there isn't actually much to do here, and every time I see this woodland foresty kids club on The Parent Trap, I always think I should build that in The Sims. So here we are. Obviously, I get the vibe of what the Sims team were going for, which was like a relaxing woodland forest style vacation, and I love that. And obviously at this point, this is the first game pack that they've ever produced for the new game, for the base game for The Sims 4. So obviously they were still trying to figure out where the direction of the game was going and everything like that, which is, you know, absolutely fine. But I don't know if it's just me, but if I go on vacation, like, I want to be doing things. I want to be exploring. I want to see all of those touristy sites, you know? I don't know. I feel like if you're going to pay to travel to go somewhere, you don't really want to be sat in the hotel room like you would at home, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, like I was saying, if you visit Granite Falls with your Sims, there's very little activities they can actually do. And some of them, like the decent ones that you could go on, like, you've got all like the walks that are in Mount Komorebi and stuff now, but majority of the stuff that's in Granite Falls is rabbit holes, like the hikes and all the different little activities you can do. But there's nothing massively that you can do alongside your Sims and like join in and interact with. So having a kids club where you can hang out with your kids' Sims and, you know, perhaps invite other kids' Sims along with your family and play and make friends and memories. And I just honestly thought it would be so cute. So just quickly moving on and talking a little bit about the build here. So you can see that I originally mapped out all the individual buildings just using floor tiles just to start off with. These weren't set in stone. It was literally just to give me an idea of space. Making sure that everything I wanted on this lot would fit, and then I could move it around if I needed to. So as you can see, I'm now working on the 2 wooden cabins, which is where the dorms are. Like I said, there are 4 beds in each, which is enough for 8 children, or if you wanted to, a mixture of adult, child, teenager, whatever you like. The only age that isn't accommodated for in this is toddlers. Toddlers don't have that many items and they require a lot of attention and carrying around places, because I did start to play test it on this build and it just wasn't working properly. So it was just a little bit of a pain to try and integrate in that way. Anyway, so yes, this lot is pretty much dedicated to children. In the dorms, there are also some showers and toilets. I was going to make the toilets outside with like outdoor sinks and stuff that you sometimes get at theme parks. There's some at a safari park a few hours away from where I live, but again, they didn't really work that well and there wasn't really enough space. It just didn't look quite right. So in these dorms are a few toys for children to play with and some chairs to chat on. You know, maybe late evening your kids may stay up late and talk about the things they've done that day. There's also the decking outside, which has a few extra chairs and also a don't wake the llama table. The other dorm is pretty much kitted out exactly the same. I tried to use a lot of flags and rugs that reflect the sort of cheery club atmosphere. Also, what was perfect for this pack, which came up the right time, was the new kit called the Little Campers Kit or something like that, and there were so many cute little items that fit perfectly with the idea, and I'm so glad that I held on to this build as long as I could to make sure I included them. So there's the little movie screen with the sheets, which you'll see later on in the video. I popped it near the swimming pool lake on the deck, and you'll see what I mean. There's also this really cute doll's house which is made up of random toys and cardboard, and it looks like the kids made it themselves and it's so cute. So outside the dorm rooms I've put down a campfire with some outdoor seating for some campfire songs, toasting marshmallows and things. I also popped in a couple of tents, so if your Sims prefer to sleep under the stars then they can definitely do that. I fenced this area in just a little bit because I didn't want the entire lot to be one massive open space. I mean it is an open space. I wanted there to be a little segregation between the areas. So I'm just finishing up on the second cabin now. There are a few more flags around this one along with a couple of banners, which has a growling brown bear on it, and I thought this could be like a cute mascot or some sort of logo for the camp. So just finishing off this second cabin, as you can see I just put a few extra cluttery items everywhere, and also that other cardboard type doll's house, which I think is from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack, but don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. So moving on now to the 2 larger buildings. So like I said, one is going to be sort of an activity centre and there'll be a lot of additional activities to do in there, and the other one is going to be a canteen type building, which is essentially where all the kids would go first thing in the morning for their breakfast and then throughout the day for any other snacks and meals. There's also some additional toilets in that building because obviously space was a little bit limited in the cabins, so if they're all occupied there's always somewhere else to go. So just building up these structures now, as you can see, I wanted to try and keep everything the same style. Like maybe it was all built up around the same time and then some of the more modern aspects were added in as time went on to keep modernising the area, but I wanted to try and keep that foresty feel, that log cabin feel as much as I could. So you might notice, instead of sort of decorating interiors one by one, I wanted to get all of the outside structures and outside decorating done first. I sometimes struggle with focusing on one thing at a time, which you might notice as time goes on, but I'm struggling to get those creative juices flowing for a certain area of a build sometimes, and I will suddenly just like switch over to another area and start building that up, and then that tends to help me figure out what I want to do next. Like, I watch other builders on YouTube and there's builds that are incredible, and it's like they never make a mistake, and honestly I'm in awe. So obviously if you just see me darting about a little bit from space to space, that's why. So just moving on now and talking a little bit more about this swimming pool / lake area that I mentioned earlier. So the lake is made up of this big swimming pool, which will have the diving boards and the floats in it, and then on top I made this sort of like open decking area, and basically foundations and swimming pools don't mix as far as I'm aware, so you can't have a foundation on top of a swimming pool. So the next best thing I could do was cut away an area of the pool and then place the foundation on top of that area, and then place that on a stilted foundation. And then what I did was use the move objects cheat and the bracket keys for like lifting objects up and down, and I placed a load of bushes and low-lying type flowers underneath the foundation, so it just hid that connection a little bit, and I think it worked out quite well. You can't see the foundation that much underneath once I did it, and obviously your Sims wouldn't be swimming under there anyway. So I also used a few of the debug objects in this build, like the large logs and branches, and this was literally just so I could fill in a little bit of that empty space, especially with the areas around the pool, because obviously you can't put up a pool to the edges of the lot as far as I'm aware, so it was also just to keep the theming going around that. I also popped in those stone diving boards and the pool ladders, which are from the Get Together pack. They were originally used in the bluffs so that it like blends into the environment, which is exactly what I used it for here. So for the decking, I wanted there to be some sort of covering on this back area, and I tried all sorts of like the golas, I think they're called, and then I remembered that we got this sort of floating awning that came with the, I want to say Desert Oasis kit, but I could be completely wrong. Desert Luxe kit, that's what it's called. So what I did is I placed more of those wooden beams which we got from the Werewolves pack. And I honestly love those beams. They look so good in these type of builds, and I hope we get some more of like those rough, almost like handmade type items. I feel like it looks a lot more authentic, especially for more outdoor builds. Anyway, so yeah, I placed those beams down, and then using the move objects cheat, I essentially lined the awning up next to them and then overlapped the awning. And then once I'd done that, I placed like a load of ivy and those purple climbing plants. Oh my gosh, my memory at the moment is dreadful. But yeah, I placed those all over it, and it looks a little overgrown, but I honestly love that. So just adding a bit more decoration into this area now, pulling out loads of items that I thought would be useful in this area, lots of camping supplies, saucepans, beanbag chairs, and then also that amazing looking projector screen, which is made out of a bed sheet or something. Like, that's honestly one of my favourite items in that kids kit. So just popping some beanbags around on a rug, and also some blanket boxes, which obviously, you know, if the weather's getting a little bit colder, then they can wrap themselves up in the blankets. Obviously you can't actually do that in the game, but it's nice to be able to have those items there to like keep the role play going. So on this decking, I also added some grills and some benches. So rather than going into the canteen to grab some food, you can cook some on the grills. I can't actually remember if kids can cook on grills, but while I was actually playtesting this lot, I actually used 2 of my Sims that I'd already made and took them into CozySim, and basically I dressed them up to look like forest rangers or like staff members, and then basically went around with the children and interacted with them and cooked the food and cleaned the showers and the toilets and stuff. So obviously you can bring your kids' parents here if you wanted to, or you can like create some staff members to look after the kids while they're here, and it just helps with those extra bits that kids aren't able to do by themselves. So I just skipped ahead a little bit here, and I finished working on that centerpiece, which is a massive statue of what I want to say is like a bear or a koala or something, and I love this item, and I think it's perfect as like a centerpiece to this build. Obviously I skipped ahead a little bit as it took me so long to put all those little stepping stones that you can see around the outside. I found those in the debug menu, and I guess it's kind of like a roundabout, so everything sort of like leads off this area, and you can access all the buildings and the stuff from this like center bit. Then I used some more of those string lights. If you've played the Jungle Adventure kit, you know what I'm talking about, but there's this beautiful centerpiece in the marketplace area of that build where they have like a load of string lights that are coming out of like a tree or a statue or something, and I was kind of hoping that they had that entire set of lights as like a debug object, but I either missed it or it didn't exist. So anyway, I had to do it by hand, but I think it looks really nice. So also from the Jungle Adventure kit, I found these llama statues, which I think are like things you can collect or open, and they give you like special items or something. But if I'm honest, I am yet to play that pack, so I don't actually know, and I don't want to ruin it for myself. But anyway, using an archway that I found in debug, I then placed the llama statues on the little stone wall bits on either side, and I thought that as this camp was called Llamakorn, that these statues would be a great fit for that theme. It's only actually after I placed everything and I started to play test the build that it turns out your Sims can't actually walk through that archway, which is really strange. Like, I tried everything to make it work. I took everything away, moved everything as far away as I could, like all the plants and everything, and the Sims just kept walking around it, so it's rather annoying. So in the end, which you'll see, I actually had to place an additional gate to the right hand side of this archway, which the Sims will now use rather than like jogging around the entire lot. Obviously, I kept the archway there just for the visuals because I thought it was quite a nice looking entrance, and it's just a shame that it's not functional. So we're finally now moving on to the canteen area of this build, and this also includes the reception area. Obviously the reception bit is a bit more for show. I just wanted to add it in for like a little bit of realism. So I've decorated the outside with some benches from the outdoor retreat pack, and then loads of different types of potted plants and some more string lights. Honestly, those string lights are everywhere, but when it gets dark it looks so atmospheric and beautiful. So moving on to furnishing and decorating the canteen area, I filled this area with a couple of fireplaces and then also loads of wooden tables and chairs. Obviously this is an excessive amount, especially when you can only have up to like 8 Sims traveling, but in real life these kinds of places will be packed with kids, and so they'd need all that extra space. There's also a food bar type thing, which I believe came with the university stuff pack, and this means that if you hire a member of staff to man it, your kids should be able to grab meals from it. A small disclaimer is that while I was playtesting this, the usage of that food bar was a little bit wonky. Like, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, so if it works for you or if it doesn't, I'm really sorry, but I did add some extra things like small fridges, and also there's the grills outside, so you should still be able to get food for your Sims. Like, it seems strange, like I wonder if it's only coded to work in the university world, but if that was the case I would expect it to be in the debug menu and not like in the normal catalogue. But anyway, there's also 2 extra toilets at the back, which I spoke about earlier, just in case the others are in use. And then I popped a load of traditional style paintings and some extra sofas and lots of potted plants around the area just to fill it in a little bit. So now we're moving on to the reception area. Like I said, this area is a little bit more for show rather than actually being functional, but I thought it turned out so lovely. So I used the desk pieces from the Get to Work pack, and these have very limited swatches, so I ended up covering them with loads of like decoration pieces. I popped a lot of cork boards on the walls. Perhaps these will have like flyers for dates of things coming up, or maybe they could be from a parent or kids who have lost items or something around the park. Like, this is more like the headquarters area of the camp, and it's where everyone would come to sign their children in and out at the beginning and the end of camp, and it's also like a convivial place. So obviously your Sims can't get behind the desk as far as I'm aware, so like I said, it's more for like a backdrop or something. I just used a load of information signs, and there's also a skateboard behind there. There will be another one in the activity centre as well. I also wanted a sign that looked like a logo for the camp, and I couldn't find anything small enough. So basically all I did was use one of those big outdoor signs that came with the outdoor retreat pack. I keep wanting to call it Go Outdoors for some reason. Anyway, and then again I used the bracket keys to lift it up, and I popped it diagonally on the corner of the desk, and then I also put a little mascot on the other side. I just wanted to try and make this area look really homey and comfortable. Like, I love smaller spaces and lots of clutter and making everything look as though it's used on a daily basis, so I was really loving making this area. Also, I didn't know that you could use fish that have been caught and like make them into plaques to go on the wall. Like, all the years that I've been playing this game and like the previous games, and I had no idea. I also noticed, and this was definitely bypassed by me loads of times, but the feathers that you find in the debug menu, like if you click on them and then put them on the walls, it becomes a plaque of the bird that the feather came from. Also, in the same way that I used that outdoor sign on the desk, I also used another one to go on the floor in the reception area, and that looks like it's a map of the area. And I thought, as this is like a convenient area for everyone to gather, they're going to want to know where everything is, so I placed that down. So just creating a small park there, just as an additional play area for the kids to use. This area is quite generic. It's got swings and a climbing frame. I did put down a pirate ship, but there wasn't quite enough space for it. I really wish we had more of these, because we've only got the pirate ship and then also the spaceship. Like, I'd love to have those like massive all-in-one play sets that have got slides and swings and climbing walls and stuff on them. You see them in public parks a lot in the UK, or even like play tree houses that we got in the Sims 3 Generations. Just some like more play areas that were a bit more generic would be amazing. So just moving on now, I'm finally working on the last building, which is the activity center. So inside here there are loads of activities like chessboards, a little library, science stations, telescopes set aside on the decking. I actually made those telescopes into like a little cabiny sort of like camouflage type area, and basically put a load of those green leaf curtains around it, and I think it looks really cute. So it's just like, you know, like a camouflage area that you go and like do bird watching and stuff in. So back inside there are more arts and crafts tables, and then also a little seating area with a fireplace and a scouts board. Like, in my mind I thought this would be like the meeting area for the little hikes that kids do. Now, I don't know about other countries, but like in the UK there are these holiday parks called Haven, and there was a club called the Tiger Club, and my parents actually put me and my sister in this club for a day, and we used to like walk through the woods and sing songs while we were walking around, and we used to earn badges, and there was even like a mascot called Rory the Tiger. Leave a comment below if you were a kid in like the 80s or the 90s and remember the Tiger Club, because honestly I remember having so much fun. So just adding a massive amount of landscape into this area. Like I said, I wanted it to look like a camouflage area, so I wanted it to be covered in lots of vines and hanging branches and stuff, and I actually really like this area, and the telescopes are 100% functional as well. So here's the inside of this building. Like I said before, I'm just pulling out loads of different items, some clutter and other bits and bobs like camping supplies. Honestly, I had so much fun with this build, and despite it taking me so long and me like losing a bit of steam over this at times, I definitely love the way this came out. So just adding in this little fireplace area that I mentioned with the scouts and the hiking, and then all those different activities we spread about the build. So I'm going to end this voiceover here. There will be some edited shots at the end of this video, along with a bird's eye view of the camp, so you can see everything that's been added in. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This is definitely one of the longer videos that I've made, so if you prefer these longer and bigger builds, or if you prefer smaller homes and stuff, then please leave a comment below. Also, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye everyone!